Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I have the good fortune to be with Dr. Tywanna Smith. She is an award-winning international sports advisor, former professional basketball player, best-selling author, co-founder of the Athlete Abroad Summit, and founder of the Athletes Nexus, a business and marketing firm dedicated to helping athletes monetize their brand, plan for life after sports, and build long-term financial success. I could keep going, but we would spend the whole time talking about every amazing thing she's done, including her award-winning documentary, Ballin' Abroad. So, Tywanna, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
It is our pleasure. So let's dive right in. Can you walk us through the transition from professional athlete, professional basketball player, to becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I like to say I cheated a little bit, right? I tore my ACL in high school, and any athlete will tell you that coming to grips with, having your season ended and just, wow, I cannot play will get you to thinking about what you're going to do outside of sport earlier. And I did. I knew I wanted to be in the business field. And so I had actually gone overseas to play professionally, and I was approached by an alumnus from my college, Ole Miss, hotty toddy, and about being a financial advisor. And it was a great opportunity, great decision. And the way I stayed connected to sport was to manage the finances of professional athletes. And that was over 18 years ago.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure the longer version's in the book somewhere.
Yes.
If not, it should be. So talk, because you've got your finger in a lot of different pies. So how did the award-winning documentary come about?
Yeah, just wanting to reach more athletes and to really humanize the experiences, particularly of those American athletes who find themselves playing abroad. As a player who played overseas, and I've worked with over 60 players from NBA, NFL, WNBA, many of those players found themselves abroad. And so we realized there's not a formalized players union for these individuals from the American perspective. There are European organizations, but they don't speak to the American experience. And so we wanted to really humanize these thousands of athletes who find themselves playing outside the United States. And we were able to create this international documentary to give their experience a voice.
That is awesome. And then talk a little bit about what inspired the book, Surviving the Lights.
Yeah, trying to get into the hands of younger athletes or student athletes rather. And it's really surprising that I wrote this book ahead of NIL becoming a thing, right? Where you have young players who are faced with these decisions. What am I going to do outside of sport? How can I get ahead of the game? Entrepreneurship is introduced. And so I like to focus on the professional side of being a professional athlete, not just playing in contracts and all of that. And I wanted to start that thought process for younger student athletes so that they can maximize their opportunities in the game.
That is awesome. So how did that segue into the Athletes Nexus, and how has that kind of evolved? Because you don't just stay in the NBA lane where you played, you've broadened out to, a lot of professional sports.
Yeah, reaching more athletes. And actually, I launched the business and then the book just for that reason. I'm thinking I can only manage so many at a time and with my team, but we can really get this book into the hands of more. Of course, yes, my model has evolved over the last 18 years where I came in initially as a financial advisor and consultant. I quickly realized that professional athletes have a ton of needs outside of just getting the contract and getting a bag of money, right? And so I began to find myself helping them with media and image. Branding and marketing and getting endorsements for them, setting up nonprofits, managing the other people on their teams, and some post career stuff. And so I evolved my model to be this off the court and off the field advisory service to them instead of just staying in the financial lane.
You've been in the business through the most pivotal times in sports, right? You went through COVID, now you're going through NIL. How has all of that kind of changed your business model and how you serve your athlete clients?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, to lean into this opportunity in the global landscape, whether that's through the digital space where we are finding ourselves in a more increasingly digital world, but then also not waiting until you're done with sports to tap into other streams of revenue, right? And my second book actually speaks to this concept, and it's called Plan Two, where most athletes think in the terms of procrastination. When I'm done or after this is over, my plan B is. And I think that we're in an age where they realize that they can be both, right? You can be an astute businessman or businesswoman and continue to play the game at a high level.
And you also have the Athlete Abroad Summit, which is the first and only global business and personal development conference for American athletes overseas. I mean, that's got to be a monumental effort to put together in multiple countries around the world. I
Yeah.
mean, how did you pull that off?
So through partnership with one of my clients, a retired NBA player who's still currently playing in the Chinese basketball league, just realizing that this experience probably touches more athletes than those who play domestically. And we were able to come together and tap into resources and that ecosystem of people who have a vested interest, the athletes, their agents, executives, angel investors who see the opportunity. I mean, we see the NBA is looking to build an entire new league in Europe. And so there's opportunity there, but we wanted to serve the athlete experience and really advocate for those gaps, whether it's mental health. If you think of them in terms of the military, where you're assimilating in cultures, right? There's a gap there that we need to support and other information to help them in the transition. And so we want to advocate for this community because it is the most overlooked and underserved professional athlete community that exists.
You segued perfectly into my next question. What are some of the biggest challenges those athletes are facing, and how does your work help them?
Yes, absolutely. Mental health is one, right? Not only are you dealing with being in another culture, people may not speak the language, food is different, time difference between, your home life. But then also just the basic transition issues that even our domestic athletes face and figuring out what's next. The benefits, though, the advantages to this subset is that you are exposed to a global audience in a different way, right? You're actually in these communities in France, in Italy, and China. And so we are advocating for athletes to take charge of their careers in a way that has not been done before and really to use sports as a diplomacy tool. Yeah.
I've net sports as diplomacy. I love that. I'm gonna borrow that.
Yeah.
So you've got the in, obviously, of having been a professional athlete, but these folks arguably have more people trying to knock down their doors than probably anybody else on the planet. How do you get into those networks? How did you get into other leagues where you had no experience playing? Like, how do you get in front of people who are playing now when you played years ago? How does the marketing side of your business work?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I get that question a lot as far as working with athletes from different sports. And it's really easy and simple because the sport is different, but the business, leave for a couple of contractual things. It's largely the same. Like they get money, they still need to understand how to make their money work for them. They need to figure out how to use their skills in a different way. The mental health piece, dealing with the media, right? The things that I do, setting up businesses and nonprofits, that stuff is the same regardless of the sport. And then I'm able to stay relevant because number one, I'm willing to pivot in what I do. Sometimes entrepreneurs, as you know, may look at those pivots as failures. Like, oh, wow, this didn't work out the way I planned for it to. So I've just got to, no, you just find a way to pivot along with the changes in the times. And that has served me well. I can be very relatable because I did play and I understand how athletes think. And I really pride myself on that because I can meet them where they are.
That makes a lot of sense. You've also branched out beyond the athlete space. What inspired you to create what is the Teen Money Box?
Yes.
Why did you create it? And what have you learned teaching teaching your model of financial education to like much younger audiences?
I'm so proud of this program because we're now teaching it all around the world. But the Teen Money Box is a business and financial literacy curriculum for teens 13 to 18. We want to teach the foundational elements of business, finance, and economics. It's important to understand all of them to really understand money. When we think of some of the more socioeconomically disadvantaged communities, which oftentimes produces many of these elite athletes that we see, there's a gap in access to relevant programming. And so we created this curriculum. I've had the honor of partnering with organizations from the Boys and Girls Club, the Police Athletic League, where we've just been all over the country teaching folks about money. And that really came from my experience working with athletes. Having a lot of money does not fill the gap that exists when there's a lack of knowledge, right? And so sometimes people think, oh, they're pro and they got all this money, so they should know such and such. It doesn't work that way. And so I wanted to be proactive, not just touching athletes, the larger community, but hopefully be able to touch those individuals through sport who will turn around and be these centers of influence for so many others in their community.
I want to, you mentioned NIL earlier. For athletes who are now looking to monetize their brand, where do they start?
Yeah, well, they start with themselves first and foremost, and really shifting the way they think of themselves, their influence, and all of the other skills that they possess, right? When you have this platform and this visibility, sometimes athletes will settle to just be popular, not realizing how they use that influence to become paid, right? And so that really is the big, educational piece that many athletes miss, and that makes the NIL space extremely relevant. But I think it starts with the athlete and the team that they surround themselves with to help them capitalize.
And you're talking about like team of professionals, not just the teammates
Yes,
they play with. Okay.
absolutely. Team of
Just
professionals.
want to make sure.
Yeah.
You co-directed the documentary that we talked about, Ballin' Abroad. What was something, a story from filming that, had really stuck with you that you didn't expect to happen?
Hmm. I would say. And this was something I didn't really think about at that moment either, but we had several athletes who talked about their experiences as athletes abroad who are also parents. And particularly from the male perspective, but it does lend to the female perspective as well, right? And just the additional strain that exists when you're not able to bring your family with you. And I don't think we think of that when we think of all the perks that come with being this famous and really cool professional athlete who can travel the world and do all these things. It's still a very sensitive subject and one that even male athletes deal with as well. So I would think that parenting abroad was probably the one that touched me most.
As a father of three young children, I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think about that going, wow, I never thought that you get you NBA career is over, but you keep playing and you go
yeah,
somewhere else to another country, or you never get there, but you get to go to another country. And then there's oh, I never thought about what happens if like my spouse and kids don't come with me. Then it's
yeah,
like dad's in the army and he's on duty,
yeah,
right? He's active duty somewhere in some other
absolutely.
country.
Yeah,
That's the only analogy I can come up with.
yeah, absolutely. Very, very similar. And I think that as we humanize these players, it's important to remember they suffer from a lot of those same things.
What can someone who's not a professional athlete take away from all of this? Like you've had so much unique experience. How can someone who's our audience who are entrepreneurs and business owners, how can it apply to them?
Yeah, there's so many similarities between entrepreneurship and sports. And at its core, it's about using your gifts and your talents in a unique way to maximize on opportunities, right? For those individuals, maybe they have physical abilities that we're talking about ways for their mental capacity to catch up. For us as entrepreneurs, maybe we have certain mental, critical thinking and other things. Find your superpower, find your gift, find the thing that you're good at that makes you tick, and then find a way to monetize it. There is so much opportunity out here for all of us. And I'm always an advocate for people taking advantage of those opportunities that allow them to live a purpose-filled life.
That is awesome. So, for someone who, let's say, we do have a large presence in professional services, financial advisor, accountant, folks like that. So, let's say you had someone like that who wanted to break into the athlete market, but doesn't have your street cred of having played. How do they get in the door?
Yeah. Sometimes I think that that is an asset. And I mentor a lot of young individuals who are changing careers or wanting to break into sports in some way. The reason I say that is you get to have this very objective and holistic view of the profession, the gaps that exist, instead of being groomed to think like the average person in sports who wants to, make every athlete do the same things, invest in the same things. You can bring a very unique and fresh perspective that offers the balance that athletes need when sometimes we are in this very siloed segment of society, right? And so, in many ways, it's an asset. You're able to allow them to see how the things they're doing, the opportunities that they have, the investment opportunities available to them fit within their bigger picture from a post-career perspective, right? You're not just limited to thinking of them as these high earning players in the current sense, right? In the present. So I like to think of helping them spin what they are thinking about to provide some balance to athletes that they may not otherwise have.
You've achieved so much success on so many different levels. What's your biggest challenge now?
Uh, I would say, balancing motherhood in sport, right? On the both hands, right? You want to be present, and I am a very present and involved mom. My children are active. My son is 10 years old. He just started his first business, so I'm really excited to help him blossom.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
It's really exciting. And then, on the professional side and continuing to show up consistently and over deliver. There are situations, as many women in certain industries like this can attest, that being a mother in sport is oftentimes looked at as a disadvantage because, I want to be sure you can serve my needs. And how can you do that when you have these other priorities that will always come before me? And so, sometimes you feel that subtly, but I don't really look into it in that way. I always pride myself on over delivering a quality experience and getting results. And I like to tell every woman in a position like this or in an industry dominated by men that, if you focus on those things, the work will speak for itself. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, just kind of balancing motherhood on both sides.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
I love being able to help other individuals who can turn around and help many more individuals, right? Sports is one of those connecting professions, right? I mean, I don't care what your beliefs are, your race or any of those things. You can sit next to someone in a stadium or you both have this shared camaraderie around a team experience. And so because of that, these individuals have a duty and they have this special power to really amplify good into the world. And so if I'm able to help them make better decisions and become more successful, it's a ripple effect throughout society. And so I get really excited to see those individuals I touch get it. When the light bulb comes on, that's a special moment for me.
I that is beautifully said. I answer the question the same way in terms of the ripple effect. You've worked across sports, education, finance, media. What's upcoming? What future collaborations? What projects are you most excited about?
Yeah, done quite a bit. I'm really excited to continue to grow this summit experience and all of the different entities that we're touching around the world and who are becoming more involved in this initiative. From there, there are additional media projects in the global space that my partners and I are excited to pursue. So we're going to continue to move forward in this space and try to touch not just our American athletes but athletes all around the world in hopes of touching youth and other communities just to make the world a better place through sports.
That is awesome. Well, we know your time is incredibly valuable. We appreciate you spending some of it with us. For our folks watching or listening, where is the best place for them to go learn more about you, about the books, about the summit, about the documentary, about all things Dr. Smith?
Yes, I would say, my website, tawannasmith.com. I am on LinkedIn, and you can also visit me on Instagram, Facebook. I try to stay pretty active in those communities. But yeah, check me out on my website and you'll find all things Dr. Tywanna Smith.
Awesome. This has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Dr. Tywanna Smith. Dr. Smith, thank you again for joining us. Thank everybody for watching and listening. We will talk to you or see you all next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.